Hello, friends. Welcome back to Film Chewing. We are continuing the Oscars project, which is we have been watching every Best Picture winner since 1960. We will make it to current day eventually. Today, we'll be discussing the 1975 Best Picture winner, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. The runners up that year were Barry Landon, Dog Day Afternoon, Jaws, and Nashville.
Wow.
I've only seen Jaws out of those.
Me too.
They are all fantastic. All
Yeah.
of them are fantastic, yeah. Uh, yeah. I couldn't even tell you which one's my favourite out of them, to be perfectly honest. They are all just top tier movies, including One Flew.
It's interesting, looking back, how many of these movies would have changed if we would kind of retroactively pick the best picture. As we gain some time and distance from it, and the cultural impact and the
Yeah.
kind of what's remembered through the years, or what's made the most kind of what's most memorable. But I guess that's what's good about the awards, is that it's in that moment and it gives you kind of a look back on that point in time. So
Yeah.
Yeah, like
I
a
mean-
snapshot. Yeah.
Yeah. For that reason alone, I wouldn't have minded Jaws, because like Hollywood big budget action films don't generally win awards like this, but Jaws is a film that has stood up remarkably well for something that's about a plastic shark. It's done a good job that way.
yeah, that's the only one I've seen other than Now One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Well, I had seen this one before,
Mhm.
a long time ago, and I remember it being a little more grand and epic than what I felt now. Now it felt a little more personal and a little more just like a simple look at a single situation. So I don't know what I was thinking the first time I saw it, but that was, of course, that was probably 30 years ago. But yeah, no, it's well, I think it's because it's compared to what we have been watching.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
The Godfathers, both of them are these big epic stories about this whole big family and all that stuff, and some of the other films that we've watched have been quite big on the scale. This one's a little more toned down and personal,
Yeah.
and so I think that really hit me right off the bat when this film started.
I had a memory that the film was about whether he was crazy or not, which it definitely isn't. That was sort of what was in my head, as it goes in. Is Jack Nicholson crazy? And it's, you know, it's much more about, I think, trying to rationalize cause and effect. Things that happen and why they happen, and maybe who's at fault for them within this kind of almost like a mousetrap of a film, as it is. Like they're all literally in this kind of cauldron, all these different mix of personalities and problems and all of that kind of stuff. And there are some tragic events that happen at the end of it, and I always like to think back from a script writing point of view, and what was the seed at the start that caused that to happen, or where did it germinate, where did it come from? And I think it's much more, like you say, a personal film about that, rather than, God, look at all these crazy mofos all about the place.
Yeah, I think as you mentioned, the cause and effect of Jack Nicholson's character Randall. He is creating all these problems and having his fun, but the other people in the facility are the ones who kind of pay the price for it. Who
Yeah.
their lives get turned. Went from a fairly peaceful, I guess. Peaceful is, I guess it's depends on how you define peaceful. If they're medicated and just whether they're even alive at this point because they're all medicated. But he comes in and turns everyone's lives upside down. He has his fun. They have their lust for a short time, but then they pay the price for it after he creates all these waves for them and makes them worse off probably than they were before.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I love how it's really established right at the beginning of the film, like right off the bat. You have Nurse Ratched. When she first enters, she's like deferred to. People step
Mhm.
aside for her. Everybody's kind of. She's definitely in control. Represents order. And
Yes.
when we first meet Randall Tech, he establishes himself as a disruptor. He is chaos, and that's kind of what this whole movie is about. It's about order versus chaos. Now, whether or not that order is a good thing or the chaos is a good thing, good or bad in both cases, that's, based upon the circumstances of the moment, and really by the end of the film is up to the watcher to decide how much of that order versus chaos is good or bad. Obviously, both can go too far in one way or the other, and I just love that back and forth of that theme throughout the whole film. I thought it was that part of it was just, I thought, masterfully done.
Yeah. Much more than the other films, I think, that would think about, you know, who's good, who's bad. It's very up in the air. This is a thinker of a movie the whole way through, and I think in some ways that's why there are times when I struggle watching this because it goes on for so long, and the anxiety that I think that question that appears right throughout the movie happens is hard to digest and sit through. Like even when I finished watching it, I was like, I sort of don't like the question that it's asked me at the end because I haven't got a definitive answer here. I
Mm.
don't have a right answer. It's not very clear to me that it was just one thing, but definitely tragedy did happen in multiple ways in this place. And it makes you kind of question the whole act of what is life, what is living. Were those people even living beforehand? In what way, even though they were sort of under the control of order and the government, if you want to say, all those allegories I think are quite apparent within the film. And he is the chaos, but he does represent kind of life in a lot of ways. Like he's kind of about, well, what's in it for me? What can I do? And all that kind of stuff. So I think it's a really complex film to think through. And unlike some films or books or something that you would watch and you kind of put it down and go, oh, that was okay, and think about it for months afterwards, I find One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is one of those that, as you're watching it, it's constant. It's like hitting you over the head with, well, what do you think now? What do you think of Randall? Is he just a jackass? Is Ratchet, just being reasonable, or is she being unreasonable? What's happening here, and it leaves a knot in your stomach. I think this film.
Yeah, yeah. There are definitely times when you think Ratchet is going to be almost Nazi-ish in her application of the rules and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But then there's times where she lets it down a little bit, lets a little chaos happens, has this little smile on her face, and then reasserts control,
Yeah.
as if she's measuring how much to let it out.
Yeah.
Because when they're in the circle, she doesn't always clamp down on the chaos. Like
That's right.
she lets some of it happen, and I think it's pretty brilliant how she's in control when she has that little smile on her face, even though there is a little chaos going around her. And there's something to that. There's something like it really makes you think like what's the end goal here, and I think it's really pushed home when you find out later in the film that some of these guys are volunteers here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think that was like really like that threw Randall for a complete loop. He was like totally caught off guard by that. His chaos all of a sudden just stopped right in that moment because he was like, "What?" He couldn't fathom being here voluntarily. Couldn't fathom being under the control of order in that manner on a voluntary basis. And I really think that it made it's a turning point for both their characters,
Mm.
Ratchet and Randall, at that point, because you kind of get a sense that Ratchet isn't all bad, and she's actually doing something good for some of these people, even though you may not agree with everything, you know. And you also get a sense that Randall maybe you want to like him at first. You want to be on his side. He's fun. He's like causing all this havoc, and you like it, you know. But then at that point, you get well, wait a minute. He's now disrupting these people's uh, you know therapy or routine, whether you agree with the therapy or not. He is disrupting it, and there's something deeper here about what he represents in that spot, and that's when you get the sense that this may not end well, you know. And it's just I like I just love how it was written, how it was done
Yeah.
in that way.
I think Ratchet is I think within the system she operates in. I think she's a good. She seems like she's an honorable and good person. She could have gotten rid of Randall and he'd be someone else's problem, but she
Yeah.
voluntarily keeps him because she knows it's just passing him along to the next person, and that's like a never-ending cycle of passing a problem around. I think she has the best intentions. It's just a question of, I know some people were there voluntarily, but could also make the case for this kind of institution is are you ever really there voluntarily because
Mm-hmm.
you're medicated out of your mind, and are you really, because I guess like a form of Stockholm syndrome where you
Mm.
depend on the medication, you become institutionalized, and it becomes your identity, and you feel like you can't leave even if you want to, just like a lot of prisoners who get out of prison and want to go back in because it becomes this, it's your life. You become used to a certain way of living. So
Yeah.
I think there's kind of a, I think it raises questions too on the types of treatment people receive, and the way that people are kind of just medicated and tucked away somewhere. And is this really helping anyone, or are we just medicating people and putting them to the side and not really dealing with their problems, or improving their lives in any way?
Yeah. Interesting. I sort of read the film a little differently um, than both of you, although I think we sort of come to the same point at the end. I didn't like McMurphy at the start of the film. His instigator kind of approach doesn't fit in there, and he's doing it for his selfish means, for his entertainment. And Ratchet, to me, she doesn't say no to McMurphy leaving the asylum because she's worried about passing on responsibility. To me, she wants to control him and break him.
Hmm.
She has that thing. Even like I was thinking about this when I was watching it, like the way she wears her hair, right throughout the whole thing, it's almost like horns. It's almost like she's a devil character, and I think the framing of the whole thing as being this woman in control of all of these men. It's a matriarchy, and all of the orderlies are black men in this pure white. Like that's not done by accident, and I'm not entirely sure exactly what the point is, but it's a very stark kind of thing. Like even like all of the orderlies who were white, there's not a mark on their white. They're working in a hospital at dirt, but there's never any dirt shows throughout the entire film on their uniforms or anything. So, like, it is one of those films. Like, I feel like I get a lot out of it, but I also feel like there's a whole lot more that I don't really understand either. You know what I mean? I didn't
Mm.
get the full bit out of it because Ratchet has got that order. I think all of the things that have been said are true. Like I think in her mind, she feels like she's doing the right thing. She feels like she's given order and structure, and those meetings that she has that she controls. She feels that there's good outcomes coming out of that. McMurphy would look at it and say, "But none of these people are living," and I think that's where
Hmm.
when it comes down to the voluntary aspect, he is taken aback by, well, why would anybody want to live like this? Like, why would
Hmm.
anybody, he thought he was doing something to break up their monotony, but actually these people had chosen. And actually, that point in the film is when he actually, I think, really starts to care for these people in a lot of ways. They're not just people that are sort of in his way from taking over the asylum. That's the reason he doesn't leave, is because he feels like he has a responsibility to protect them from the order and authority and the drugs and whatever else he perceives to be going along. And in doing so, he literally becomes part of the system then, because that kind of chaos is not welcome in an institution like that.
Yeah, you bring up good points about the symbolism there. There definitely is something to that, and the it's almost it's almost like a hell in a certain way.
Yeah, yeah.
And these guys, they are going through the same punishment every day, and like they fight over the cards, and one of them gets upset, and they do the wrong thing, and they and the you know the instigator of Randall, he's thrown into there, but yeah, you're right, he eventually becomes a part of it through that process of getting tortured. No, not literally tortured, but
Yeah, yeah.
tortured in a metaphorical way, in a manner that allows him to care, like you said, for the other people, which brings back a cycle to have him metaphorically tortured again because of what happens to them. And that's interesting. It's interesting that kind of symbolism you brought up.
Yeah, it's almost actually, now that I hear you speaking, it's almost like I like the illusion of hell. It's almost like the place is a purgatory of sort. It's like a waiting place for them to go either on with their lives or just stay in there for the rest of their lives. No, it's kind of place between heaven and hell, and they're sort of caught in that way. It's a
Yeah.
really interesting kind of thought, that, Jared. I appreciate that.
And I think that gives bigger, like a grander gesture to the chief walking off into the sunset. Like
Yeah.
he got out of purgatory. He's walking off, and it's almost paradisical what he's walking into.
Yeah.
It's very nice looking. It's a freedom. It's wilderness. It's almost an Eden type setting, and so that kind of gives some weight to that, especially how Chief is the one who kind of changes the most throughout the film, from being basically a statue
Yeah.
to being this character who not Randall, what's his name? It is Randall, right?
Randall, yeah.
This character whom Randall at first makes fun of, then comes to actually love, and kind of wakes him up, shows him the beauty of things, shows him chaos, and ultimately the chief takes all that and moves on. He almost ascends out of the purgatory that they're in. You're gonna start throwing these ideas at me.
Yeah. I wondered if he could hear when he was trying to get him to play basketball with him, and he would look back and kind of was starting to wonder, can he really hear, or is that just the actor not kind of going along with the whole deaf thing? But yeah, I love the when he starts talking, and Randall's reaction to that was, it just, there's these funny moments, and then at the end of the movie it gets really pretty dark. So
Like it's another one of those incredible ensemble cast of like character actors. I mean, they're all incredible. I mean, Danny DeVito has like two lines in the entire film, and he absolutely destroys every scene that he's in. In his mannerisms and the way that he plays cards, and he hasn't got a clue how to play cards, and he just doesn't understand it. But he likes playing cards because that's kind of what they do. And then the guy who's problems with his wife, and it's just so impactful. I think as you see those relationships develop from these people that are on one hand foaming at the mouth, kind of being a bit crazy, but actually they have deep psychological issues. And for me, the big turning point with McMurphy, with Randall, is when she takes away the cigarettes and he breaks the window to get Chesick his cigarettes back, just to placate him, because he's lost it. And you see this thing of, this man doesn't need to suffer just because you're withholding his cigarettes. Just give him his cigarettes. And he gets cigarettes and realizes that it's too far gone by that stage. I think he has an understanding of him at that stage, but his kind of perception of that this is all of a game disappears a little bit, because he's trying to rile them up. He's trying to kind of take over the asylum and assert his authority, but actually it's a bit too much. And even when he gets his freedom and he can walk out, he stays because of Billy.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know how that ended up, and yeah, we've thoughts about that as well.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think for Randall, eventually, like, ultimately it turns out that he's not in it to win anything in particular.
Mm-hmm.
When he first does his little chaos, when he goes behind the counter,
Yeah.
and he causes just that little bit of chaos behind there, and eventually they get him back out into the room, and he just looks at them and he says, "Oh, I tried, didn't I?" And I think that's his game. That's all he wants, is that moment of, it's like a high for him. So escaping wasn't the end game. It was just the high of causing that chaos, of getting to that point where, oh, well, I could have kept going. I could have won. I could have escaped. I could have moved on to something else, but I didn't want to. He just likes being there in that moment, and he gets off on it. And if he wins, if he actually does escape, then what? Then he doesn't have anything else to strive for.
Absolutely.
And it seems like he can escape anytime he wants, really, because he gets out fairly easily when he steals the bus. I mean, it didn't take him very long to lift himself over the fence. So he's definitely there to instigate.
Although he does have that moment where he says, "My 68 days are nearly up." And the guy laughs at him, going, "What are you talking about?" As if he has some sort of control over when he goes or stays, as part of the system. If he's going to leave, he's going to have to do it another way.
Yeah.
Just a quick fun fact as I was looking over the names for the cast, but it was originally announced in 1962 with Kirk Douglas was supposed to star, and
I can see that.
Yeah, and filming lasted 3 months in Salem, Oregon, in the surrounding area, and it was shot in Oregon State Hospital, and it is an actual hospital that is still in operation.
Right. Really interesting.
But lots of familiar faces here. Lots of people that or a couple of people that made their film debuts.
Yeah.
I was impressed with the cast, but really,
Yeah.
stellar cast.
Yeah. Who was the actor that played Billy?
Yeah, Brad Dourif, Wormtongue.
Oh, that's Wormtongue. Okay,
That's Wormtongue. Yeah.
Oh man.
And quite famously from his roles in X-Files and that kind of stuff. He's brilliant in X-Files. But yeah, Brad Dourif, he's excellent. And seeing them so young and fresh-faced and not kind of the older, kind of more wizened version that they are now, kind of gives it a bit more meaning. And obviously Christopher Lloyd is Tabor. It's great fun. I just wanted him to say "Great Scott" the whole way through the movie. Great Scott.
I was just waiting for Marty.
Marty.
It's the Libyans.
Here's some plutonium.
1.21 gigawatts. Anyway, could do that all day.
Yeah, we could
So
just
many great lines.
could
So
fill
many
the hour
great
with
lines.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. But yet, amazing cast, and like all
Yeah.
kind of play their moment really well. And I love the interactions of them together. You know those moments where he's pretending he can see the World Series and they're all celebrating. That's a really joyous scene. You know,
Yeah.
and I think you get an insight into Nurse Ratchet's actual motivations because she doesn't like that at all. She's seen as very disapproving of the fact, even though they're doing nothing but having fun in each other's company and make believe and all of that kind of stuff. It's not. It's like he's won. You know, that kind of vote thing that she kind of tried very hard to control the environment of and stay in control. And even the moments when they're out in the boat, it's just so fun. Like who's steering it, and
Yeah.
it's just really funny stuff the whole time. But you do get the sense that actually, for all of the things that happen inside and the cur and everything, those are moments. That's what living is about, and that's sort of what he was in there to show them. Whether he's the devil or representation of the devil or not, there are things that were good about that experience for bonding, and like they should be outside. And even though he knew nothing about care, knew nothing about looking after those people, he was bringing them something in their life which they were sorely lacking.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I think that's what we were talking about earlier, is that balance that was missing. There was something missing. He was as an agent of chaos. He needed to bring balance to what was going on there, and and that's that brought the humanity out of everybody else. And of course, it's tragic. It goes too far. And
Isn't it always though?
yeah, and that's that's the warning, I guess. That's the the you can go too far one way, you can go too far the other. And,
Yeah, it's sad. Like, so the death of Billy, who's responsible?
yeah,
I'll say probably Randall's responsible. Well, I don't know. I mean, does he have agency and free will?
Well, that's effectively what he decides to exercise, I think, in the taking of his own life. Sort of like a theme we've been talking about in books that we've been talking about as well. This idea that the ultimate sign of humanity is the fact that you have control over your own life, and whether you live or not. And that bit, for me, I think Ratched oversteps her mark, and she abuses him with the personal relationship with the mother and that kind of stuff. Now, it's not to say that in isolation that's by himself, that's why he kills himself, but it is the bit that he cannot reconcile. That bit he has shame, because he comes walking out from what you call the girl, Candy. What comes walking out, and he's very sure and he's brash and he's not stuttering, and he's almost cheeky back to her, and then she very quickly snaps him back into place and exerts that control over him, and he stutters, and the more that she berates him and reminds him, the less he can talk, and then he disappears off again. Now, it is also hand in hand with the fact that Randall set that situation up and put him in a position that he probably wasn't emotionally ready for anyway. So there is kind of like no definitive kind of trait to it, but I think the difference would be that Ratched wouldn't take her responsibility for that outcome. She would have blamed it on Randall, whereas I think Randall would have taken personal sufferance for that. And in some ways, his death or the murder of him at the end is also him escaping that place, because if the chief hadn't killed him at that stage, he'd have been institutionalized and miserable and not living the rest of his life. So they both sort of fly the cuckoo's nest at the end in slightly different ways.
yeah, yeah, and it's kind of a thematic point when in the struggle of order and chaos, who are the casualties?
Yeah,
And that
the
is
innocence, so to speak.
the innocence of Billy, and yeah, very powerful stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Great film.
Yeah.
And that weird music at the end was not reassuring at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Big shout out to Milos Forman, who is the director of it as well, because there's a man who came over from Czechoslovakia and had been in the Czech New Wave and all that kind of stuff. And if you're ever wanting something with similar characters, kind of farcical like that, his Czech film Fireman's Ball, if you ever can ever find it, is you can see why it's the same director both. It's kind of similar characters in it, and he obviously went on to do some incredible films in Hollywood as well. But it's such an unusual, quirky film, especially as you quite already said, all those epics that were around that time, and that was the direction it was going, and these very grandiose tales, and yet we have this kind of little oddity of a character piece about people in an asylum, and a very micro community. It's a very opposite, nearly like the whole film staged in one location the whole way through. And,
Yeah, yeah. Very intimate, very personal. Yeah.
mm-hmm.
I was looking up the director. What else? Other movies he did?
So the ones that he did, he did Blonde in Love, which is an incredible film as well, in Czechoslovakia, and then he came across. He did Amadeus. He did Man on the Moon. He did The People versus Larry Flint. What else did he? He did Black Peter in Czechoslovakia again. Incredible film. At that time, so he's done many a great film has Milos Forman, but yeah, this is his most recognised for sure. Although Amadeus won Best Picture as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be watching that in a few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised how dark it got at the end, but I guess now that we're sitting down and talking about it, I probably shouldn't have been, because you know that this probably wasn't going to end well.
Yeah. It is sad. But seeing McMurphy as that kind of vegetable, like nothing life in him, is as stark and depressing as the Billy thing, because of his exuberance the whole way through the film. Like, he's absolutely larger than life, and there's like nothing to him. And I love the symbolism of the chief ripping out the water, the marble waterfront in the end, like literally destroying the indestructible, and so to speak, and fighting back and kind of gaining his freedom by sheer force of will and physicality. I thought that was a really powerful scene, coupled with rather strange soundtrack that goes with it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where does this one rank in your lists?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy. This is a really tough one for me, because unlike a lot of the other movies that we talk about that were ranked very high, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is not one I would want to watch very often. I find it very uncomfortable to watch, not just because of the tragedy at the end, but because of the build up to it. Like, I just find it asks questions I don't want to know the answers to in some ways, because, like I said before, I don't think there are any. But that doesn't take away from its power as a film. I think it's an incredibly well constructed piece of work, very cleverly written, and thing. It's below The Godfather Part 1, definitely. Probably Part 2. It's probably below Midnight Cowboy. It'll be below West Side. It's probably about 6 for me.
To your
Above
point, I think
French Connection.
it's yeah. I think it's like almost seeing two trains that are about to collide for 2 hours, and you know it's going to be bad.
Yeah, it's 2 hours 15. I think if it had been a bit shorter, the anxiety levels wouldn't have got so high, but maybe it wouldn't have had the emotional impact that it does either, because I think each of those stages and each of those scenes is important for the story.
Yeah, I would put it around 5 or 6 myself. Yeah, probably 6. I like it. I think I like it better than the French Connection,
Yeah, I do.
but I do like the Sound of Music a lot, um, and I like The Apartment a lot. So it's tough.
A lot of good
Yeah,
films
it's
now. We're
a lot
nice.
of good
What, 15
films.
years in, 16 years in terms of
Hmm.
movies. It's getting it's getting tight.
It's getting hairy to rank these.
And we still
Yeah,
haven't got to the end of the 70s yet. Jeez Louise.
yeah, yeah. I think we're all in agreement. I think this is right outside the top five. You know, after Midnight Cowboy, The Godfather, The Apartment, Sound of Music. So it's probably sitting at about 5 or 6 for me.
Yeah.
Yep, I think. Yeah, depending on my mood.
Yeah.
Yeah, In the Heat of the Night.
Yeah.
That's pretty good too. Yeah.
Tom Jones.
I knew that was coming.
It's almost, that should almost be a sound effect, so just hit the button at the right time, Steve, and just drop it in.
Yeah, I got to get some Tom Jones
Mic drop.
sound bites. But it's in 1976 is stacked too. Well,
Yeah.
we have Rocky is the winner that year. All the President's Men, Bound for Glory, Network, and Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Rocky beat out all those, huh? Jeez. Wow.
I
think-
cannot wait to revisit.
And I love Rocky. Don't get me wrong, but wow, those are good films.
I can't wait to revisit. It's been 2 or 3 years since I've watched Rocky, and I used to watch it very regularly. Rocky 1, that is, none of the other ones. Occasionally Rocky 4.
Yeah, it's Rocky 4 is not too bad.
Yeah, different type of
I
movie.
think, but yeah, definitely. I think Rocky is one of those movies that are timeless in it's this the human experience,
Yeah,
overcoming adversity, persevering, kind of where it could, kind of inspire someone in 1976 the same way it would in 2025.
yeah.
So it's
And I think it's a reminder because obviously Stallone's career changed past this, and then he became the action star and all that kind of stuff. But he wrote the screenplay for Rocky, and I think it's interesting to look at Rocky in the idea that it's a one person vision in a lot of ways, for thing. And when he get put together with Schwarzenegger and all those guys, and Stallone has something in his locker, I think, that none of those other people have, in terms of, I think, something that really resonates, a bit like you were saying, Steve. That many years later, that kind of underdog story and fighting against the system and all of that kind of stuff. There's real heart to Rocky, as an old podcast friend used to mind say. It has a lot of heart, kind of going pumping through it, and to be fair, like the franchise is morphed and evolved, but it's still going to these days. Michael B. Jordan still going strong with that franchise, so it still has things to say. But I'm very much looking forward to revisiting for sure.
Speaking of Stallone and his career, I wondered watching One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest if Jack Nicholson, because some of his movements and the way that he acted in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest reminded me of his portrayal of Joker in the 1989
Oh yeah,
Batman. Is it 89? So I wondered if he kind of went back to some of those kind of mannerisms and kind of, being the troublemaker as his Joker.
It's Nicholson's career in the '70s interest, because I think he had many varied roles, and I think the later on in his career that you talk about there, Steve, the more he kind of devolved into the same archetype, into that kind of crazed maniac. He's some great roles there, but
Yeah, you see that in Witches of Eastwick too.
Witches of Eastwick, that's the one I was
Yeah.
trying to think of. Yeah.
Similar type of.
But there are aspects of this character you can see in like his early movies, like he was an Easy Rider and stuff. When he's in that, the shades of that it's always been his wild eyes. You know, he's always had this kind of this crazy look, and I'm like that bit where he comes along and he pretends to be kind of affected by his treatment, and he winks at the chief. You know, it's such a subtle movement, but it's so good. Like it's so playful, and it just communicates his screen presence so strongly. You know.
He
Yeah,
definitely has a presence.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. He has a way of not letting you take his eyes off of him at all. He demands your attention when he's on the screen.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. I don't think his Joker gets enough credit. I
No.
think it doesn't get talked about very much, but and Keaton too, I think, did a good Batman. He doesn't fit the physical aspects of Batman, but it is a good Batman. But
What a star.
yeah,
The best
Never rub
Batman.
another man's rhubarb.
He's the best. He's the best. Just because he communicates to me, anyway, that slightly unhinged aspect of Batman that in some later iterations they had to spell out a little bit more, but with Keaton it was just there. Just sort of in the back of his head that he wasn't quite right, you know.
yeah. We can have a whole conversation about anybody who dresses up as a bat and fights crime. It have to have some problems.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so next time would be Rocky. And looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing where that stacks up in our list, if it'll crack the top 5. Or maybe even higher up the list.
Maybe number 1, because that's where Rocky belongs. Number 1!
We'll see.
Sorry about that.
I wonder today if this year would have been reevaluated if Jaws would have won this award.
I think Jaws is such an interesting movie for, like, and then 77, Star Wars as well. Like, there were opportunities or films that appeared in the 70s that if, when we get to the 80s and we look at we think of the great films of the 80s, not too many of those got recognised in the same way. That those big kind of budget ones. There are a couple like Indiana Jones and stuff's there, but in the nominations. But if Jaws had a won, would Indiana Jones have won? Would Back to the Future have won? That
Star
kind of
Wars,
stuff, yeah. It is an interesting question to ask about that period in time. But there's no doubt, like, all 5 of the movies this year are all incredible. If anybody hasn't seen any of them, go and watch them. I'd say the same for next year as well. I mean, for Taxi Driver not to win Best Picture is a hell of a shout.
Yeah. That's good. I mean, I would not have put Jaws over this one myself.
Yeah, but I agree.
I agree too.
I mean, I like it, but I wouldn't have. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't have put it over this one. But
But
Taxi Driver.
I'd rather watch Jaws than this again, though. I will say that.
True. Yeah. I'm down with that. But Taxi Driver is a fantastic film.
Yeah, I will say this because I watched Taxi Driver again recently, and reminded how amazing it was. And historically, I would have said I preferred Rocky over it, so it'll be interesting to actually revisit that kind of thought with fresh and more recent eyes, because that's been a long held opinion of mine at the time, and I'm not so sure because Taxi Driver, every time I watch it, it just goes up in my estimation. It's so brilliant.
Have to watch that one. So,
You never seen Taxi Driver?
No, I'll have to watch it.
Oh man, that's one to add to the list for afterwards. That's good.
Do a middle episode if you want.
Yeah, well, wait to the end. Once we get to 2025, 26, whenever we finish this.
In about a year.
Yeah. We'll go back to what should have won.
Yeah, go back to what should have won. Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. So until next time, Chris, where can people find you?
You can find me on Patreon forums, on Speculative Speculations podcast, on the Chronicle of Chris YouTube channel. Any of those places will do.
And Jared.
Yep, you can find me at those places as well. And you can find me on the Fantasy Thinker YouTube channel as well.
Yes. You can also find me on patreon.com. It's the quickest way. Thanks everyone for listening. I hope if you are watching along with us, hope you're enjoying the ride. And I'd love to hear your top 5. If you would like to send in your list, we'll read it off on the next episode. You can either drop us a message in the link below, or, of course, on the forums. Let us know there. And we will talk to everyone very soon.